It is now possible for all of us to share globally. And of course, the best example of this, the sort of textbook example of this, is that most familiar thing, Wikipedia. Now, how many of you have never used Wikipedia? So one person in this room. So that's, basically about, I don't know, perhaps 1.5% of this particular sample have never used Wikipedia. Now, last time I was at States, which was in San Francisco in 2005, I talked long and lovingly about Wikipedia, and if you want, that talk is available. You should download it, you should listen to it. I really don't mean to sort of run over that same ground again. But what I want to do is take a look very specifically at the power of sharing, as is exemplified in Wikipedia. Because what it is that innate desire to contribute something of value, to reinforce that connection, that is multiplied across the hundreds of millions of people that are using Wikipedia every day. And it's being harnessed by a really, really simple technology. Wiki, which is the technology that powers Wikipedia, is not rocket science. It's almost as old as the web, and it's a very simple technology. It's very easy for people to use. It's very easy for people to implement. But when you take that simple technology with the internet and then multiply it across all of the human social networks that are connected via the internet, what you have is a free, comprehensive, and universal reference for the human species. And the interesting thing about Wikipedia is you don't need an internet connection. They'll give it to you on a CD if you want it. So you can just use it in the jungles. And you don't even need a computer, because a lot of schools in poor townships in South Africa are simply printing out sections and giving them to classrooms. It's all free. And it's all free in whatever medium is best suited to the people who need that information to share it. Now, I mention all of this because one of the organizations that I do my thinking for in Australia is called education.au, and their job, they're a nonprofit organization, their job is to work with educators to keep them abreast of the current developments in education and educational technology. And of course, there's a huge amount going on there. So about 18 months ago, I was invited to give a presentation at a meeting they were having in Melbourne. There's 200 teachers in the room, and I get up and I talk about Wikipedia, and I show Wikipedia pages, and I ask all of them if any of them have used Wikipedia, and 2 hands go up, and I'm just sort of dumbfounded, and I look at them and say, your students are. And it really must have made somewhat of an impression, because I really got on a bit of a soapbox. I think you can understand that that probably does happen from time to time. And when I was on this soapbox, it left an impression such that in January they called me back and said, hey Mark, we'd just like to let you know, maybe you'll be interested, we've invited Jimmy Wales, who's the founder of Wikipedia, to spend a week in Australia in April touring around and talking about Wikipedia and education and things like this, and we'd really like it if you could join us and help us out and organize some of the seminars and panels that we're having for this. And let me tell you, when I heard this, it was like being asked to go on tour with the Beatles, all right? In my world, Jimmy Wales is a rock star. He's absolutely a rock star, and there it is. So, I was signing up for a grueling tour because we crossed the country twice in 4 days' time. So we spent most of our time running to airports or giving talks and then running off to airports. But it was really interesting to spend time with him because he's something that's a little bit different than the average mode. He's big on the internet, but he's not an entrepreneur. He's out to do good, and this is very hard. For instance, I saw him being interviewed by a lot of people in the press, and it was very hard for them to grasp that even though he has, say, the 6th or 7th busiest site in the world, which means it's potentially worth billions of dollars, he's not interested in making any money on it. That's not what he's doing. He's out to do good. But the press have been sold so much internet snake oil for the last half generation that it's very hard for them to make any sense of this. But of course, for Jimmy, and he says this pretty much right out front in every talk he gives, he says, it's all about love. And yes, I may be the only person who's come to you from an internet something or other who's going to talk to you about love. But it's a labor of love. It's a labor of love for him to work on it because he doesn't get paid for doing this. It's a labor of love for everyone who's contributing to Wikipedia. And you have to work from love. And in one sense, this is enormously a practical thing. Because, believe it or not, love and positive emotions and positive efforts are strongly selected for, particularly in an information-rich economy such as the internet. Because if you think about it, if you're working on the internet from anger and hatred and misogyny and racism, you actually get very strongly selected against. It's not that you get wiped out, but you get marginalized, you get pushed over into a corner. Now there's a lot of people in that corner with you, all right? But you're not mainstream. You're strongly selected against by the sort of prevailing energy on the internet. So, at the end of the week that we spent together, and we really got to know each other. I guess I can call him a friend now, certainly. He's a friend of mine on Facebook, so I guess that means it's my friend. We had a day together in Melbourne. It was our biggest day. There were 220 people. The room was completely full, a lot of real energy, and we were both comfortable enough that we decided to sort of not do a workshop in the last hour of the day, but instead we were going to do a fireside chat. Just 2 chairs on stage, and I was going to think up the hardest, best questions that I could ask, things that people hadn't asked during the week, and we were just going to go at it for an hour. And I just thought this was going to be enormously fun. All right. Before I talk about that conversation and what happened to that conversation, I'm going to back up a little bit and tell you about another thing that happened. Because it's relevant. So, last year I went to Burning Man, saw Sasha and Ann, stayed with all of my kooky friends, and I flew home to Sydney. And I was giving a keynote at a web conference 2 days after I landed in Sydney. I've done all my notes, all my slides are ready. And I'm sitting in the opening keynote. I'm giving the closing keynote. Kelly Gatsu, who's a San Francisco-based web designer, interaction designer, is giving this very fun keynote, and she's talking about all the speakers that you're going to see during this conference. And as she's talking about each of the speakers, she's got a picture of them, picture, and then she comes to me